It's not Providence. It's first.
There is
But
no
if
First Bank
it's a
here.
card, then that means they're not.
They're
They
not
have
sponsoring today.
specific days. Yeah.
Okay. So it's just this gentleman.
Phones on silent, please.
Right.
Uh,
Is this mine?
What?
Is this for me or for him?
Is it for you? Yeah, there's one there already for him.
So I leave it.
Don't give it up.
Why you leave?
To listen to you guys.
If you listen, you won't get to see.
Ugo, please project it.
Why? He doesn't project.
It's like, yeah.
He's a very polished man.
The sexiest man on the earth. That's how he speaks.
You're not very gentleman. It's real talk. You want me to be shouting like?
Be passionate. All right.
Read all about it. It's in the news. Red lines. Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. Welcome. If you just joined us, you're just in time. It's time for Freshly Pressed 981, where we take a look into the stories making the headlines in the dailies today. We're going to be taking detailed analysis. So if you're out there and you want to be a part of our conversation, you know what to do. If you don't know what to do, let's tell you what to do. Please send a message to our WhatsApp platform. 0809-444-0981 is where you can send your messages to. Doing our analysis today and leading the conversations is Mr. C. Good morning, Mr. C.
Good morning, Kaide. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning. You can find him on at Monsieur C on IG. That's Instagram. Also with us this morning is Ugo Dre. Good morning, Ugo Dre.
Hey, Mr. Carter. Morning. How are you?
Fine. Good to see you. It's been a
Same
minute.
here. Yeah.
Good
You're
to see
looking
you.
refreshed.
I am, right? So are you. You can find Ugo Dre on at Ugo Dre on all platforms. Okay. So once again, please reach out to us on our WhatsApp platform. Send your messages to 0809-444-0981. So the first story comes to you, Ugo. It says from the Punch newspaper, the FEC that approves 20% salary upgrade for police officers. And I mean, it goes on and on though. But what are your thoughts about this?
Well, the first time we heard that there was likely going to be a salary upgrade, I think was June or July or something. I think it was the president who had mentioned it then that a salary increase was on the way. So finally, it has been approved according to this in this article. 20% salary upgrade for police officers. We haven't seen details yet because usually when you have salary upgrades like this, some people get 5% increase, some get 30% increase. It's not. I don't think it's usually flat, all the way. And then this is also coming on the back of the NSAS protest last year because one of the demands that was given to the government was to review police salaries. So the government is claiming now that
It's off the
this is
NSAS.
exactly this is them fulfilling some of those NSAS requests.
But the question is 20% enough? Because, and also the timing, is it the right time? At the same time, it's also 20% what they're supposed to increase this to?
Come on, don't be an Oliver.
I'm just saying. I mean,
I think the thing is whether they even have enough money to pay for this. Because what I was looking for in the story, and when I did a bit of research this morning, was they didn't really mention how they're going to fund it, and I think that's really the fundamental problem. It's easy to come out and say you're going to increase salaries, which is fine. I mean, we all know that our policemen are heavily underpaid, but then how are
hence
you
why
gonna
I
fund
said
it?
is 20% enough.
Well, 20% first of all is faster than higher than the inflation rate, year on year, that is. I mean, but if you look at inflation rate over the last 5 years, probably much lower. But I don't think anybody who has been given the 20% hike in salaries will complain
Yeah, they will
this
complain
time
at
and
the
age.
moment.
Yeah. So if you're an employer, you giving your employees a 20% raise is actually significant, because that's why I'm actually worried about how they're going to fund this, because it's not for you to come out and say that you want to give policemen 20% increase, and then you don't go through with it. That's the bad, because this is not the first time we're hearing things like this. And then even in the article, apart from that increase, is a 13 billion or so that was approved for outstanding health benefits, for over 5,400 personnel. But there was just one small caveat, though, in all of this. And let me just read it out. He, however, said, however, is the minister here, that's Minister for Police Affairs, Mohammed Dinyadi. And he said the payment would only commence after the Auditor General of Federation must have scrutinized and okay, or go to the general, what are you scrutinizing?
So if there are
I
any
don't-
leakages, maybe.
What are you scrutinizing?
Maybe,
Pay them
maybe.
their money. This is what I always like when you bring in all this command caveats and if the FEC has approved your salaries,
Yes.
tell us how this is going to be funded. I can't remember if it was provisioned for in the 2022 budget.
Okay.
But if it was, then that's fine.
I
How's
imagine
gonna
it
be
should
cashed
be though,
back?
because they're saying it will take effect from January 2022. That's the salary, the 20% increase.
Yes,
And it has to come from somewhere, like you mentioned.
I hope
No,
so.
sorry, just to jump in quickly. If it was included in the 22 budget, then we would have heard about it much earlier. So I have my doubts as to whether there was indeed any provision made. Because don't forget, the Ministry of Police Affairs has gone to defend the budget at the National Assembly. And I haven't come across any record of them, of any reference made to this increase.
It's the same here. But I mean, but our readers, our listeners, if you guys, have records of it, please share. Please let me know because I don't think I saw it. And if you know how they're going to pay for it, please comment section. Let me know.
All right, Mr. C, this next story comes to you. It talks about the federal government. Federal government arraigns 15 suspects for allegedly invading Justice Odili's residence. Now, this comes from the Guardian newspaper. What are your thoughts about this?
Okay, so thank you, Kennedy. Now, the first challenge I have with this story is it's not an alleged incident. It actually did happen. It's just that her security guards repelled the invasion.
Okay.
Now, 15 suspects, we've all seen what has happened since the event of that day. The Minister of Justice has denied, the EFCC chairman has denied, all the security agencies have denied knowledge of that operation. Now, 15 individuals were gathered and rounded up and then presented in court. They were arraigned in court yesterday. Now, at the proceedings, the prosecutor, who is a member of the Nigerian Police Force, kept on referring to several amended charges. Finally, he stuck on one and withdrew the rest. Then, in a strange twist of events, the defense counsel gets up and the counsel to the defendants, all 15 of them, got up and addressed the court and said that they had applications for bail. Traditionally, when that happens, what happens is the police prosecutor then says he has just received the applications, he needs time to study them, he needs time to respond to them, and then a further date is given. But yesterday, the police prosecutor said, please proceed. I'm not opposing the motions. And then guess what? 10 of the 15 people arraigned yesterday were granted bail. 3 were asked to be remanded because the application, 2 of them tried to move oral applications for bail. 1 did not file any application. For the other 2, they're silent. Now, we must remember 7 other individuals
They're
are
still at
said
large.
to be at large. Now, frankly speaking, I do not have much confidence in these proceedings, and I'm not certain what will come out of this. So, but they started the charade, and we will follow them to the end. Because the truth of the matter is, it is a big slap on the face of the judiciary, and it's a big indictment of the Nigerian police force that such a rogue team of individuals can be operating freely in the capital city and targeting senior public officials. Now, the only reason why the activities came to public domain was because they tried it against the wrong person. Now, this clearly was not their first rodeo. There have been previous victims, and for whatever reason, did not say anything. How many more groups like this are operating in Abuja, are operating in Lagos, are operating in Port Harcourt, are operating all over the country? There is just a clear sense of impunity all over the land, and it permeates all the agencies, all the government structures. And when they are caught, the first thing is to deny. But you can only deny so much.
Alrighty, thank you so much for that, Mr. C. If you're out there and you want to add your thoughts to our conversation this morning, feel free to send us those messages. Send them to 0809 Let's move on to our next story. And this story comes from this day newspaper, or rather, it comes from Premium Times and it comes to you, Ugodre. Nigeria's inflation hits 15.40% amid high food prices. This coming from Premium Times, like I mentioned. And we see this happening. Inflation has, I mean, year on year, it's been difficult all through from I think 2021, and it looks like it's getting worse. Is there an end to this?
Rather, I think it's actually getting better, but you know, most times when people see inflation rates report, people tend to just see it as one of those numbers. But this is actually one of the most important data you can ever come across in Nigeria, or that you should ever track in this country, because inflation permeates every single thing that we do, and it has major effects on how we live in this country, or how things are done. Whether from your mechanic that's trying to maybe dupe you or shaft you of your money for your car, or people inflating prices, or the sachet of milk that you're buying that is hit by shrinkflation,
Mm-hmm.
different kind of things. And I was doing some analysis recently, and I think since 2015, inflation rate has risen by 126%. That's
Every year.
astronomical, no, like cumulatively,
Okay.
126%. And that is even modest, because modest in terms of the way, the reality for a lot of people, because of the way inflation is calculated. So inflation basically is just the basket of a lot of food and items put
Okay.
into one basket, and then you sort of put weights to it, and then you measure it. Because really a lot of things have doubled between last year and this year, right? So but at just 15.4%, I think that it's trending downwards. We opened this year at 16, got to as high as 18.17 in March, 18.17% in March.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been trending downwards. A lot
But
of
what do we need to do to drive inflation downwards, as opposed to
you
going
want
up
us
every
to
time?
have that discussion here? We will not go.
Okay, you know
My
what?
God,
In
because
one
there's
word, in summary, how
no,
can it be better?
it's a lot of work. I mean, we've said it here several times, and I think even Rotus has touched on it a lot on this program. There's a lot of work. It's structural problems that we have in this country, major supply side issues, whether from insecurity to logistics problem to our ability, not being able to store food, food.
Due to
A
the
lot of
insecurity
stuff.
as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, exchange rate issues also, affect inflation. Like I actually mentioned, transportation issues, several things that
So
affect
every arm of
extortion.
the government
Yeah,
and the economy needs to be
a
fixed
lot
in
of stuff
general.
needs to happen for inflation to get. And an interesting thing about the report, if you read it, actually tells you where you saw a lot of the increases, last month. And guess where? Bread, cereals, fish, food products, potatoes, yam, tubers, oil, fat,
That's everywhere.
everything that we
That's
eat
everywhere.
every morning, whether it's the rich man in his house in Banana Island, or the guy next door to him who is selling his Meshai, because in this Nigeria,
It's
you
yeah,
have a
a mixture of
Meshai
both.
living near rich men and all that, and Shanti is living around everybody, and we all call ourselves big. Anyway, so the point is that but it's trending downwards. Not necessarily. I mean, the government would say it's because of a lot of policies that they are putting in place, but some of us would think that it's what is called base effects. Base effects basically is that because inflation was really high a year earlier. So when you look at it,
It
now
starts to
it sort of
stabilize at some point in time.
starts to net off mathematically. So that's what's happening. But good news all the same.
All right, thank you very much for that. Don't forget, guys, this is Freshly Pressed right here on Smooth 98.1. So please send your messages to 0809 This next story comes to you, Mr. C. It's from this day newspaper. The EFCC uncovers additional $72.8 million linked to Alison Madueke. They've also arrested an ex-bank MD. What are your thoughts about this?
Okay, thank you, Kadi. So, in the ongoing and never-ending Diziani Allison saga, the EFCC claims to have uncovered an additional $72.8 million linked to the former Minister of Petroleum Resources. And consequently, it has arrested the ex-managing director of Fidelity Bank, Mr. Nnamdi Okonkwo, and one other individual Now, they say this is in addition to previous sums linked with this Diziani Allison, which include the sum of 153 million US dollars and another sum of 115 million US dollars, for which several cases are still pending within Nigeria's legal system.
Yes.
Now, with regards to the 153 million US dollars, I checked for details on how and when they recovered this sum. And all I keep getting are press statements by the former chairman, Ibrahim Magu, and the present chairman, Abdurrashid Ba. I still haven't come across the case details through which they recovered the sum or how they recovered it. Now, in this story, there are no details. You uncovered the sum.
Well,
from
they said
where?
details will follow, basically.
No,
It's,
so-
I want to imagine that it's a developing story.
So here's my challenge with the way the investigative agencies in Nigeria go about their business. Mr. Nnamdi Okonkwo is being investigated. Why should I know about it before the investigation is complete? In serious countries, I've said this several times here, in serious countries, if an individual is under investigation, he first gets to hear about it when the charges are formally presented to him, because they do everything they need to do to get the facts. Now, beyond that, Diziani has been outside this country since 2015. What serious efforts have the EFCC made to ensure she's brought back to Nigeria to face justice? Now, I am aware of a case where she applied to return back to Nigeria to clear her name. Guess what? The EFCC lawyer in that case opposed that application. Now, you would think
I'm wondering which side you're on here.
Exactly. I'm just trying to ask, when was this?
this was sometime 2015, 2016. I can't give more details about the case, but I was in court when that happened.
Okay.
And the EFCC lawyer opposed the application. Now, you would think that this is a woman you have vilified, you've really torn whatever reputation she had to shreds, that you'd be willing for her to even calm down. You would support the motion for her to voluntarily calm down and clear her name.
Okay, but Mr. C, let me ask you this.
Yes.
So far, what are you saying about these charges? You're saying that they should not be brought to public until a formal investigation is launched. Is that what you're saying?
So what I'm saying is this, right? Finish your investigations before you file charges in court. But what obtains in Nigeria is you're first taken to court. Investigations are incomplete at best. Then they're now seeking adjournment to go and complete the investigations. You don't put the cart before the horse. You put the horse in front of the cart. Finish your investigations. I'm not holding brief for Diziani or Mr. Okonkwo. If they are guilty and a prima facie case is established against them, they should be given their day in court to clear their names.
All right.
But media trials are not the way to go.
Thanks so much, Mr. C. If you're out there, by the way, and you want to be a part of our conversation, please reach out to us on WhatsApp. We're going to take all the messages all together, so send them to 0809-444-0981. This next story comes to you, Ugodre. It talks about the ministry from the Punch newspaper. So the ministry wants customs stripped of revenue collection role. And I mean, generally, we've been seeing a lot of stories like this in the news, but what are your thoughts about this?
This is a very this is a very dicey proposition.
What makes it dicey?
Very dicey. But flashback. I think sometime in 2016 or so. I think in the era of our dear Kemi Adeosun, they let's see, why do you have that green? they had proposed. I think there was a committee they set up then, and that committee strangely proposed that the Ministry of the Customs and FIRS be merged into one, which was kind of strange. But if you look at the motive behind that, they were looking at customs as a revenue generating organization, which it really shouldn't be, right? And but then that was the proposal back then. So this has actually been in the news for a while, or it's been mooted across government circles for a while. So, latest proposal by the Minister of Finance, I believe, it's a little would I say concerning, because the moment you take revenue collection away from customs and hand it over to the FIRS, now how I define it,
Why?
because
They should face
these guys will fight it. Look, I support that, because I do think that, let's have a consolidated revenue
One account.
collection agency, not
Okay.
necessarily one account, consolidated revenue collection agency, and that's what the FIRS role is. Because customs, sometimes we've seen that, and not just customs, most government agencies are now looking like revenue collection is a hustle.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So they compete with, and you see them talking, how much have you collected? How much have you? And that really isn't the work. They should focus on the service, focus heavily on generating revenue.
Okay.
Right. And so that's why they don't waste time to put out their numbers in the papers. If you notice, almost every month, every quarter, you'd always see custom collects X billion, the custom collects X, just to show government that, look, man, we have the machinery to collect money. And so this is really going to put customs at loggerheads.
So are you saying that they should be left to collect their revenue, or should,
No,
I mean,
I'm telling you the consequence of this action. I do think that revenue collections should be centralized to an extent, even though the FIRS is very quite powerful, right? But it should be constant, because then it's there to also track, and then cost of collection is also reduced, because now you just have one agency and they use the same, one system to track revenues and all of that. And then customs can now focus on its core job, and you don't have custom officers that are so rich,
based off of some of
so
let's just say the
but
indiscretions.
I don't know how this can go. This is meant to be part of the bill, part of the Custom and Excise Management Amendment bill that they're putting together. Whether the customs and their lobbyists will allow this to work is what I really don't know, because at the end of the day, this is all going to boil down to lobbies. And
I
next
think
year
in the
is
coming
gonna
year
be
we'll see.
very interesting.
We'll
The
get to
election
see it.
coming up, so I'm sure there are a lot of people lined up on either side of the aisle and everywhere, waiting for the debate and the visits to start to happen, because it's not going to be. This is a very powerful government agency, Mr. C. You know that, and they're not just going to keep quiet. They're going to fight this tooth and nail, because at the end of the day, this is all about relevance. This is all about power. This is all about money.
Which I think they already have, though.
No, yeah, you want to take it away from them. So,
All right, Lagos, if you're out there and you want to be a part of our conversation still, you can join our YouTube channel. Also, send your messages there. And also, please keep your messages coming to our WhatsApp platform. We'll take them all together as soon as we can. 0809-444-0981. That's where you can send your messages to. Real quick, let's move on to our next story. This one comes to you, Mr. C. It's from the Punch newspaper. It says, #North is bleeding protest. Now, federal government under attack as DSS police disperse and arrest demonstrators. And there is a long conversation towards this. You know what? I would just let you have. What are your thoughts in this regard?
Okay, thank you, Kaidi. So, the North is bleeding protests. Mr. Galba Shehu and Mr. Lai Mohammed, I hope you're listening, and I hope you're seeing these protests, because they never lose any opportunity to tell us that the government is on top of the security situation and that there's nothing to worry about. Now, Sokoto, Zamfara, Katsina are core northwestern states where the Fulani aristocracy come from. Now, previously, it has been the southeast bearing the brunt of insecurity than the northeast corridor. Now, you have these guys protesting, and they're saying that they're suffering every day. In one of the northwestern states, I don't remember the name now, there's some local terrorist or bandit that has taken over 3 or 4 local governments. And it is his room, his version of law that obtains, not the version of law as enshrined in the Constitution that obtains or in the criminal code. Now, it points to a bigger question. Despite the strenuous efforts of our security agencies, the security situation in Nigeria right now is extremely bad. and the Northwest, especially in these states that had a telecommunications ban.
You're talking about Sokoto, Zamfara, and
Yes,
Katsina
there were
states.
3 of the states that had telecommunication restriction of telecommunication services, and the bandits, the criminal elements, really went to town, slaughtered a lot of people, abducted a lot of people, obtained huge ransoms, and they're saying that they cannot continue to go through this. Now, guess what? They embark on a protest, and then police is sent to disperse them. Listeners, again and again, the right of every Nigerian to protest is enshrined in the Constitution, has been upheld by the Supreme Court of Nigeria in several judgments. Now, you cannot only allow protests when they are in support of an administration that clearly has lost grip with reality, has lost control of the Nigerian state.
Or could it be because, I mean, when you talk about protests now, you said they went to, disperse. I mean, the story talks about the government sending police officers to go and disperse the protesters. Now, could it also be because of maybe some of the people that led the protests? I'm talking about Amale Shore and, some of the other people that signed the petition from, change.org.
So I guess it was because of the people who led the protests. But the bigger question is, were the protesters engaging in acts that would lead to a breakdown of law and order? From the reports, no. Now, you allow protests if they support the president or the APC, but any protest against them is disallowed. Now, we can't continue this way, and it is imperative that come 2023, we do not allow this same sequence of events to reoccur. We need to be certain now that any leader appointed at federal or state levels is accountable to the people, but above that, has a clear plan, a clear demonstrable plan that can be implemented to resolve the problems. And all of this points to the economy. Fix the economy, fix education, and these issues will reduce to the barest minimum.
Thank you very much, Mr. C. Ogodre, this next story comes to you. Gradually running out of time, but it's from the Punch newspaper. It talks about, Nigeria, of course. Nigeria lacks certified ship radio technicians. This is coming from the NPA. And really, though, it feels like we do. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, very interesting because I didn't even know that we lacked, certified ship radio technicians and even maintenance people. Despite the number of ships that berth, our ports on a daily basis. And this is, a job creation opportunity for anyone out there.
In that sector?
Yeah, in that sector, yeah, because what they're basically saying is that they have to, if they have repairs or maintenance work, they have to rely on foreign, repairs. They have to come in and outsource it to come into the country to get these things fixed. Something as that you think was basic, which is cheap radio technicians. You don't even have them locally, and so there's no local capacity. And that is really something that the government should look at.
Why does it always take this long to discover all these things? Because you mentioned Nigeria has a number of ships, right? And I mean, we do a lot of business every day, year in, year out, So why does it take this long to, discover such problems? And then what would it take to train these personnel that you just mentioned now?
I think that maybe it's just now that it's in the public domain. People in the shipping circles would tell you that this is something that they've known that exists for a while, right? And so it's nothing new. And if you know how huge this market is across the world, then you would wonder why
we're stalling and dragging our feet
like this in Nigeria. And we do have what is called, I think, the Nigerian Institute of Shipping or something like that. And I would think that maybe this is the sort of stuff that they should be looking into, building capacities within that industry. The financial sector has a financial institute as well, and most of these other sectors all have, because you can't remove capacity building in any industry, any value chain in the economy, and this is what is lacking here. And so a good opportunity for
new industry players to jump,
because you have a lot of the engineers in our schools find jobs here, and that will be good for our unemployment situation.
Let's hope so. Final story, real quick, Mr. C. In one word, I want you to break this down for me. From the Punch newspaper, less than 20% of Nigeria's health centers are working, and this is coming from the House of Representatives. I'd say, what are your thoughts about this? But I think this is an obvious thing already here in Nigeria.
We should get serious.
We should get serious.
Yeah.
But what area? Because every now and then we see doctors going on strike. We see people breaking down. Health. I mean, so much goes on. So outside, I mean, I'd say
We,
you see.
we should get serious with administration. We should get serious with supervision. We should get serious with funding. And we should get serious with discipline. If we don't get these things right, we will continue to read these ridiculous stories. There's a budget agency set up to monitor primary healthcare centers all over the country. 6,000 out of 30,000 primary healthcare centers are working. 24,000 are not working. Why are they not working?
24,000 not working.
Yes, are not in good. Are not. Yes, they're not working or in good condition. Now, these 24,000 centers have operational heads. Have they been queried? What is the problem? For how long have they been in this state? What are the plans for putting them back in shape? That's why I just said.
Okay, so
one
those
word,
are the important questions to
We-
ask.
get serious.
Thank you so much, Mr. C. Well, you can find our analyst up on social media at Ugo Dre on all social media platforms. Thank you so much, Ugo Dre, for coming through.
Anytime.
Also, you can find at Mr. C at Monsieur C on Instagram. And once again, thank you so much, Mr. C, for coming through. Lagos, there's more to come. In a few more minutes, it's going to be time for Lagos Talks 981. All the messages we couldn't take care on Freshly Pressed 981, we'll take them in our next program, which is Lagos Talks 981. So please stay with us. Thank you so much for coming through. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
I don't know. I think we're having internet challenges downstairs. Yes. You can stop it now.